to consider who you'd like to dedicate the merits of your practice to. So thank you for joining me today. My name's Sarah McLean, and we are going to be continuing on here with the series of American Transcendentalists. And we spoke about Ralph Waldo Emerson. He was probably the first to go wayward from the Puritan tradition in Concord, Massachusetts, giving his first speech called Nature at the Harvard Divinity School. And we did 2 sessions on him. And today I thought we would talk about the more well-known American Transcendentalist who took a little bit of a different path. A friend of Ralph Waldo Emerson's, he considered himself a student of Ralph Waldo Emerson's, and it was Henry David Thoreau. I'm going to start using all 3 of my names soon. And this was one of his students, and he was the son of a pencil maker. He also, ironically, became a writer, and he wrote a little book that he could not find a publisher for. And I can't remember the name right now. It was about some rivers in Massachusetts. And he wrote that, and he couldn't get a publisher, so he borrowed some money and went into debt and published that book. Around that same time, he decided he wanted to try to live more simply. And he asked his friend, Emerson, if he could live on his property. And Emerson had about 14 acres of land around Walden Pond, now famous, but back then was simply just a pond in Massachusetts, in the suburbs outside of Boston, along Route 2, if you know it at all. And he built a little cabin there. 1 room. I've been there. I think some of you probably have been there. A 1-room cabin with a single bed cot, and a desk. And he moved in on July 4th. And I'm not quite sure of the year. I could find out. Let me just see if I have it written down. He moved there to live deliberately. And deliberately he went to live about 2 years, a little more than 2 years. And I just love his insights, and I want to share with you a couple of his quotes. I've got people in the waiting room here. A couple of his quotes. So imagine this man. He was kind of counterculture. He was an American Transcendentalist, which means he knew that there was more to life than what they found in the Puritan Bible. He knew that God was in every object, animate and inanimate. And I'm going to read you a little bit of what he said. So hold on just a second. Now, I want to put it in the framework of our own experience today. And think about what you've been dealing with or assaulted by in the news over the last few weeks or months or years, depending on your perspective, and thinking about, does that have anything to do with my life? Does any of this have anything to do with my actual life? I have feelings about it, but feelings aren't facts. And does any of this news, does it really have anything to do with me? So he has something to say about that. He says, this is Henry David Thoreau, for you, those of you just joining us. Just so hollow and ineffectual for the most part is our ordinary conversation. Surface meets surface. When our life ceases to be inward and private, conversation degenerates into mere gossip. We rarely meet a man who can tell us any news which he has not yet read in the newspaper or been told by his neighbor. And for the most part, the only difference between us and our fellow is that he has seen the newspaper or been out to tea, and we have not. In proportion as our inward life fails, we go more constantly and desperately to the post office. Think email, Facebook, X, Twitter, all that good stuff. You may depend on it that the poor fellow who walks away with the greatest number of letters or likes, proud of his extensive correspondence, has not heard from himself this long while. So as busy as we are, and he commented on the busyness of ants, and we're busy like ants, and what are we busy with? Consider your life. Think about what you've been up to today. What have you been busy with? What has occupied the bandwidth of your attention? He says, I don't know, but it's too much to read one newspaper a week. I've tried it recently, and for so long it seems to me I have not dwelt in my native region. The sun, the clouds, the snow, the trees, they say not so much to me. You cannot serve two masters. It requires more than a day's devotion to know and to possess the wealth of a day. And then I'll just read you last. This is out of his book, Life Without Principle, not the one I told you he published himself. This one is, we may well be ashamed to tell what things we've read or heard in our day. I think that's true for me these days. I do not know why my news should be so trivial, considering what one's dreams and expectations are, why the developments should be so paltry. The news we hear, for the most part, is not news to our genius. It is the stalest repetition. So I see here in the chat someone said, hi Hazel from Dorset. Wonderful synchronicity. A BBC Radio 4 broadcasts a program on Walden. I didn't know that. And anyone in the UK can access it. I can't wait. I'm going to try and figure out how to do that myself. So in our series, or my series, I'm just fascinated. I just went to Concord, went to Walden Pond, went and stayed in an old inn there. I think it was probably there after or just after Thoreau went to Walden Pond, but it certainly was in the city or the town square of Concord. And his neighbors would see him. He wasn't isolating himself. He wasn't being a monastic. But he would walk into town and people thought him odd, but he had a lot of friends. And some would stop by when he wasn't home and leave him notes and food and garlands of flowers. And he loved that. And he didn't want to be odd, but what he wanted to do was live more deliberately in a solitary state where he could be in communion with the beautiful natural world around him. Oh, it was 1845 when he moved into the cabin, and he lived there. From that experiment came his book Walden, and he lived there for just over 2 years. And his book is a record of attention, restraint, and direct experience. Direct experience is something, as a meditation teacher, as a meditator, I long for, I aim for, and I try to set myself up to succeed, and I bet you do too. You know, I could sit here and tell you all about how beautiful that pond is, how quaint his cabin is, or how bustling the town center of Concord is. But, you know, I can only describe it. And you wouldn't know it directly. You would just hear it from me. So direct experience in meditation is when your mind settles down to the point that you become more immersed into the source of your thought, the source of your attention, awareness itself. Now, the thing about awareness is it doesn't have any dimension because it's boundless. It doesn't have any particular time span because it's eternal. It doesn't have any particular elements in space and time, like the way it looks or sounds or any of that, because it is ephemeral. And so if I tell you about consciousness, you're never going to understand it. It's like me trying to talk about joy. In fact, it has to be directly experienced. So there were 3 American Transcendentalists that I've been following. Last, as I told you, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who asked the question, who am I? His wife died, his son died, he quit the family business of being a minister. So he always asked the question, who am I? And Henry David Thoreau would ask, how do I live? How do I live in a deliberate fashion without being distracted by newspapers and nonsense talk, drivel? And then Margaret Fuller asked, how do I become whole? And we'll be talking about her next week. So Thoreau answered his question, how do I live? Not with theory, but with practice. So he wrote, I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I don't know about you, but as I get older, and it's my husband's birthday today, he just turned 73, and as we get older, time seems to be speeding up. I feel like if I'm not paying attention, it'll be next year, and or next month anyway. And so, we recognize that it's time to savor our lives. I mean, gosh, it would be nice if I started, at birth, but it is time to savor our lives. And no matter when you start, now, yesterday, tomorrow, to live deliberately was, as to Thoreau, to attend carefully to life as it is, to one's own conduct, and to the natural world as a teacher. He wasn't really looking to renounce life. He was looking to figure out if he had enough in his one-room hut. It was actually very cute. And he said, a man is rich in proportion to the number of things which he can afford to let alone. Have you been in the mood lately to rid yourself of the burdens of books and knickknacks that no longer light you up, or clean your closet or empty your garage? I know it's a little early for spring cleaning, but I'm feeling the need to shed all this stuff because, as the adage goes, you can't take it with you, right? So each morning he turned to silence and study. I mean, what a luxury, really. If you do it, it's luxurious. And he read deeply the ancient texts, especially the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita is an ancient Vedic text that comes from a broader text called the Mahabharata. I'm in a Bhagavad Gita study group, and it's with Phil Goldberg. I don't know if you know him, but he wrote this book, American Veda. American Veda, and you don't have to be American to enjoy it, is a story of how this Eastern philosophy made its way into the Western thought and was able to influence Western thinking, including the Puritanism that they had brought with them from England. And he had borrowed that book from Emerson, who went to London and found a friend who had it. He bought that, and then Emerson gave it to Thoreau. It's funny, I was reading an article by Phil, and he said, and I read about the Bhagavad Gita in Walden, in the book Walden. So he went out and bought it, and ironically, he wrote the book Yogananda, which is the biography of Yogananda, and he started being immersed in the Vedic knowledge and how it made its way through Vivekananda, through the Council of Religions in the 1800s, and influencing Emerson and Thoreau, influencing Margaret Fuller and Louisa May Alcott's father, and then how it started to spread with even the Beatles coming from England, and how they referenced meditation and whispering words of wisdom and letting everything be. And a lot of their stories, of course, George Harrison and his Hare Krishna work, or his Hare Krishna song, and he started to trace, Phil Goldberg started to trace the influence of the Eastern traditions into the United States and into the Western world. And ultimately now there's yoga centers in everybody's hometown, and everybody's heard of meditation, and most people have heard of transcendental meditation and understand the value, even if it's physical, of relaxing the body and settling the mind down. So Thoreau would read his ancient texts and the Bhagavad Gita. And in our study group last night, Phil was talking a little bit about, if you haven't read the Bhagavad Gita, it's about this man, this cousin, who is a Kshatra, well, he's in the warrior class, and he had to fight his cousins who were also in the warrior class, and he didn't want to do that. And he was in a chariot that was being driven by Krishna. And Arjuna says, I can't fight. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight my cousins, my friends. And Arjuna said, there is no right or wrong. There just is this doing. And it brought to mind that poem, you probably know it, by Rumi, which says, outside of ideas of right doing and wrongdoing, there's a field, and I'll meet you there. Last week, I was talking a little bit about what side are you choosing? What side are you choosing in this, before the new files came out, what side are you choosing in America or in Europe? What side? And it doesn't even matter. I'm not even going to name the sides. But what side are you choosing? And then it came to me, maybe we choose the inside. Maybe we choose our inside and deeply connect with the source of our lives and our awareness. And it came to me last night in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita study, outside of ideas of right doing and wrongdoing, there's a field, and I'll meet you there. And this field is the field that often is expressed in terms of the field of love or the field of awareness or the ocean of consciousness that is not divided, that is full of pure potential and goodness, that is intelligent and dynamic and yet still and silent. It's a field of opposites. It's a field of all possibilities. So each morning, he said, I bathe my intellect in the stupendous and I don't even know how to say this word, cosmogonal philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. In comparison with our modern world and its literature, seems puny and trivial. I think you probably find it that way if you spent just a moment, separated yourself from the hijacking of your attention, and notice what really nourishes you. And I'm just going to read you a little bit more before we go into a meditation. A written word is the choicest of relics. It is something at once more intimate with us and more universal than any other work of art. It is the work of art nearest to life itself. It may be translated into every language, and not only be read, but actually breathed from all human lips, not to be represented on canvas or in marble only, but to be carved out of the breath of life itself. That's from his book, Walden. He understood that philosophy was not something to just sit around and think about, but to practice. So I'm excited today to share with you a meditation, and this meditation is one that is made popular by Dr. Dan Siegel. Some of you know him. He is a psychiatrist but came up with the Wheel of Awareness. I like this Wheel of Awareness because we see plainly or experience plainly the life that's we're immersed in right now. And we also see and experience plainly our own mind's activity and our relationship to all things around us. So I'm going to invite you to sit comfortably. And if I haven't introduced myself, my name is Sarah McLean. I am sitting here in sunny Santa Barbara, and I'm so sorry to say this to people who are suffering with the cold, but it was 80 degrees yesterday, Fahrenheit. And I don't know what's going on, but I'm not complaining. I'm going to let it teach me. Let it be my direct experience of warmth and sunshine. I am going to guide us into a meditation, and this meditation is a practice called the Wheel of Awareness, where we observe our five senses. So, of course, there's always the subject, you, and the object of your experiences, and we'll do that through the five senses. And then we're going to start becoming a little more intimate with the body's sensation, you still being the subject, the body being the object. Then we will pay attention to our mental activities, the beliefs, the thoughts, the emotions, and how thoughts arise and fall into the silence. And then we are going to spend a little time connecting with the world around us. And someone's asking here if I could tell you more about the Bhagavad Gita study group, and I will tell you more about it. I won't do it right now because I have to get off track, and I don't want to do that, but I will before we go. I actually put it in the recording notes too, if anyone's listening to this as a recording. So Dan Siegel created this wheel of awareness, and he likened it to a bicycle wheel with spokes and, of course, the hub. And so the hub in this analogy is the center of your awareness. The spokes are the beams of awareness that bring to light or bring alive the objects of your experience. So as we go to a variety of these objects of our experience, you can then just imagine that spoke that you're reaching around the rim of the wheel with. Okay? So what I like to tell all my students, and you probably heard it before, is if you get interrupted by thoughts other than what we're doing here, which is very likely impossible, your job is to come back to the practice if you want to. I call that the choice point. You can continue daydreaming if you prefer, but it would be great if you came back here and did the practice. Secondly, don't spend any ounce of energy beating yourself up or thinking that you're doing it wrong. Be kind to yourself. Third, don't try to have an experience you're not having. Okay, just have the experience you're having. I'll give you some gentle direction. And then if it doesn't seem like it's working for you, or it doesn't seem that way, just let whatever is be the way it is without your interference. Let's see what else. Let's begin this practice with a beginner's mind. I've led this meditation many times, but right now it's the first time. And you maybe have done it with me a few times, and let's just say right now is the first time. And lastly, let's stick with the whole practice. We're going to be meditating about 20 minutes or so. At the end, we'll sit in silence for a little bit. I might read you a quote or two, and then we'll come out of the practice. And I'm open to questions you might have. Also, we'll have an opportunity, if you can hang out long enough, to go into breakout rooms, what I call community connection rooms, and chat a little bit with some other people that are here with you. Okay, so ideally you sit comfortably with your eyes closed, but if you prefer, or it's not a good idea to close your eyes, you can gaze softly to the ground. And as you do this, find a comfortable spot for your hands. Perhaps they're resting face up or face down on your lap or knees, or on your armchair. Make sure that you feel supported in the chair you're in, the cushion behind you, and feeling balanced, making those micro movements and adjustments you might need to feel the support that's right here in your beautiful life. Now, with your eyes closed and comfort is here, you may notice that you notice your breath a little bit more. So I'd like to invite you to take some long, slow, deep breaths through your nose. This is done at your own pace, breathing in slowly and fully, and then exhaling slowly and fully. Inhaling deeply, exhaling completely. And do this at your own pace. Maybe 3 or 4 long, slow, deep breaths that send a signal to your body that it's okay to relax. Even with the good and bad news. It's okay to relax right here. It's okay to deepen your breath. And then let your breath return to its natural rhythm and depth. Throughout this practice, your breath might change. It might get faster or slower, or deeper or shallower, or become very subtle. Let it be as it is. And as you sit here, begin to focus your attention to the sounds around you. tuning into sounds that are far off in the distance, and sounds that are closer in. Practice welcoming everything as it is without any judgment or need to improve anything, as if you're listening to a soundscape. And perhaps you hear sounds internally as well. And moving the spoke of your attention to your visual experience. If your eyes are closed, perhaps you notice the light that's coming through your eyelids, or the shapes or patterns in your mind's eye. And if your eyes are gazing to the ground, you may just notice the space around you or the shapes around you. Letting everything be as it is. Without any interference from your side and without any judgment about what you prefer. Allowing your mind to be curious, but not judgmental. As you shift your attention now to your sense of smell. Noticing if you can pick up any faint aromas. Or simply notice the quality of the air you inhale without the need to label or make any choice. And shifting your attention now to the flavors in your mouth. Perhaps you sense some taste on your tongue. Or if you open your mouth and allow the breath to come in through your mouth over your tongue, perhaps there's a different quality of taste. And shifting now to the sensation of touch. Notice as the air touches your skin. Or the clothing drapes your arms and legs. There's no particular experience you should be having, just the one you are having. As you notice where your hands are resting, the touch point of your hands on your lap, or your rear on the cushion in the chair. Or the way your feet are surrounded by your socks or shoes. Or the way the air moves in and out of your nostrils. Noticing the way life touches you right now, physically. The space around you, the objects you rest upon, and the sensations of those junction points between you and the world around you. And with this same observational quality of curiosity and non-judgment, begin now to notice the sensations as I draw your attention to various areas of your body, starting first with your head. Noticing the sensory organs once again. In and around your ears. In and around your eyes. In and around your nose. In and around your mouth. Tuning into your sinuses. Your trachea, your windpipe. Your neck and your shoulders. Your arms. Your rib cage. And your lungs. Your spine. And back. Your stomach, liver, pancreas, and intestines. Your reproductive organs, organs of elimination. Your legs, feet, and toes. Let go of any judgment, any stories, as you turn your attention now to your heart and your heart center. And bringing your attention to your brain. Notice your thoughts. Notice if there are any particular stories going on or what the content of your thoughts is. Letting everything be here. And notice how some thoughts arise and then dissipate, with one thought coming right after another. Or perhaps there's space between each thought. Notice if any beliefs are arising. Or emotions are being felt. Simply witnessing. You are the subject. Everything else is the object of your experience. See if you can widen your attention to include your entire body, the felt sense of being alive. And now turn your attention to the center of the wheel, becoming aware of your awareness as you bend the spoke towards itself. Tuning into the source of your attention. The I am before anything else follows. And pointing the spoke outward once again, notice the space between you and the people in your life, the connection that's made between you and your family. Between you and any sentient being in your immediate environment. Between you and your friends. Between you and your community. Between you and the world, including all living beings. And as you do this, invite this silent mantra, I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. I love everything I am aware of. We'll meditate like this for a couple of more minutes. I'll keep track of the time. Keeping your eyes closed, you can stop repeating the mantra and simply sit and resting in stillness. I'm going to leave you with a poem. I don't know who the author is, but it's in the spirit of Thoreau, and I invite you to sit with your eyes closed and enjoy this blessing. I wish you enough sun to keep your attitude bright. I wish you enough rain to appreciate the sun more. I wish you enough happiness to keep your spirit alive. I wish you enough pain so that the smallest joys in life appear much bigger. I wish you enough gain to satisfy your wanting. I wish you enough loss to appreciate all that you possess. I wish you enough hellos to get you through the final goodbye. I invite you to take some deeper breaths if you like through your nose. Start tuning in through your senses to the space around you and keeping your eyes closed as long as you like. It's always important to come out of meditation slowly. So as the poem that came to me in terms of taking sides, I think this is the field where Henry Thoreau dwelled. Out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there's a field, and I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. So thank you so much for joining me today, and in the spirit of Thoreau, I hope that you wish you enough and hope that you feel this sense of contentment and have the desire to savor your beautiful life. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate you being here. And I'm going to stop our recording.